And then thirdly, when people are burned out and a lot of people are working long hours, they got to pay bills, inflation, all that. We're all in the same boat. But one of the things that I see happens time and time again with people that are burned out or just fatigued and wiped out is they stop doing things in life that they enjoy doing. And it could be simple things like going to have coffee with your best friend or going for a walk in the morning or reading your favorite novel or even watching Disney Plus, Netflix.
Look into his eyes. They're the eyes of a man obsessed by
success.
Eyes that mock our sacred institutions. Bedroom eyes, they call them in a bygone day.
Sex desire is the most powerful of human desires. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. So strong and impelling is this desire for sexual contact that men freely run the risk of life and reputation to indulge in. When harnessed and redirected along other lines, this motivating force maintains all of its attributes of keenness of imagination, courage, etc., which may be used as powerful creative forces in literature, art, or in any other profession or calling, including, of course, the accumulation of riches. Napoleon Hill.
Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedluck, your mistress in business, helping you get it up and keep it up. And of course, we're talking about revenue and profit. I am super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Michael. Michael, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Glad to be with you today, Michelle.
Awesome. So give us the 5,000-foot view of who you are and what you love to do for business.
I'm the founder of Breakfast Leadership Network, an organization based out of San Diego and Toronto, and we help organizations and individuals with burnout prevention, which ends up being burnout recovery, workplace culture, doing a lot of work on the Great Resignation and retention, which seems to be a big problem everywhere. So keeps me out of trouble somewhat.
Nothing can keep you out of trouble. I know you. So how did you get into this field as an area of interest for you?
Well, for me, it was from my own personal experience with burnout back in 2009. I had what I refer to as my year of worst case scenarios that was all caused by being burned out. So over a period of a year, I had a heart attack that should have killed me, lost my job during the Great Recession, had my car repossessed and my home foreclosed all in a year. And obviously, each of those losses are huge, but if you group them all together in 1 year, it definitely is a do I have your attention yet kind of moment. And believe me, it did, because I realized, okay, I'm still here. All right. That must mean that I've got some work to do. And I definitely had a lot of work to do on myself. And, for me, it did require reinvention. I always tell people that are burned out, you don't have to reinvent your life. The majority of people do not. In my situation, I had to, just because the way that I was going about life was not conducive for sticking around for very long. But for most people, it's making a couple adjustments here and there in areas of your life, and it'll make such a huge difference in kind of reducing the stress, because burnout is prolonged stress. If you don't have prolonged stress, you're not burned out. So what I found after reinventing myself and discovering, all the things that I was doing wrong, and I was, happy-go-lucky, things were going well, and I was looking at my colleagues and the sector that I was working in and recognized, wow, they're all doing the same thing I'm doing or did. And I thought, this isn't good. So I decided, well, let me start talking about it with them and giving them some suggestions and whatnot. And then I looked at, some research and realized that it was a much bigger problem than I thought. Now, this was 2015, 2016. And you fast forward to today, where we're seeing just insane numbers of people burning out across the globe in every sector. So I'm thinking, okay, it's getting worse. I was hoping it would get better. It's getting worse. So I've got a lot of work to do.
Absolutely, you do. And I can't fathom what the numbers are. So let's kind of back up the bus a little bit and go through what are some of the signs that somebody might have that might trigger, hey, I'm leading a stressful life and I don't even know it.
A few things. One is your sleep. How are you sleeping? If you're not sleeping well, and you used to, there's people that chronically, unfortunately, have never really slept well in their entire life. But if you find that you have normally in the past been able to sleep okay, but in recent weeks or months, you're not sleeping well, that's a big warning sign because your body's trying to repair the damage that you do to yourself on a daily basis. And if you're just stressed out beyond belief, your body's doing everything it can just to repair that damage. And then, of course, you start running into some health issues is another sign. If you start realizing that, maybe your digestive system isn't working really well, you're getting acid reflux, or you're constantly powering down Tums every day and every night, or even increase in consumption of alcohol or other modes of stress relief, as some people call it. If you start increasing your usage of that, that's definitely a sign. Another sign we see a lot is if you start becoming a little bit more forgetful than normal, or you're just in a daze, you just like fog-headed, quite frankly, and you're like, okay, where am I? What am I doing? And that happens to all of us, from time to time. But if this is consistent, then that's definitely a big sign. And then finally, if you find yourself more short-tempered than normal, and you get irritated by trivial
Anything.
things, everything, yeah, from the grocery store line to why is someone in my favorite spot at the Petro, or all of these things, it's little things like that, just and of course, we're just coming off the holiday season at the time of this recording, so there's some short-tempered people out there, and it wasn't a case that there was a shortage of what they were trying to buy. Just I think everybody was really, really edgy, and there's a lot of factors in that, external factors of cost of things and wars and pandemics and everything else. So that
Super long lineups and you name it. So
yeah,
you've
exactly.
hit every possible thing. Everybody listening to this has gone, okay, I have at least one of those, if not all of them. So you've covered the gamut. Okay,
Yep.
we're all listening now. So what are some of the things that people can do in when they recognize this? It's like, okay, it's stressful, but I still need to pay the bills. I still need to go to work. I still need to
Right.
go do all these things. What can they do to be able to kind of help alleviate their stress?
There's the couple things that they should focus on. One, we'll go back to sleep, and hopefully this conversation isn't putting people to sleep, but maybe they need it. But ultimately, focus on getting good sleep. And that means setting up your bedroom or wherever you sleep to be the best ideal situation for you to naturally sleep well. So that means buying the right pillow for you, buying the right bedding. Instead of buying that brand new 85-inch television at Costco, maybe buy a new mattress instead that you will feel really comfortable in and sleep well in. Because if you think about it, where do we spend the most consecutive hours of our day in one spot without moving a lot? That would be, where we sleep. So invest in the money to do that. Keep your room dark as possible, eliminate as many artificial lights or blue lights like smartphones and things like that. Get that stuff out of your bedroom. Go to Amazon or Walmart or wherever and buy an alarm clock. Don't use your phone as your alarm clock. Get it out of your room, because your brain sees that light from the smartphone and your brain thinks, oh, we're still supposed to stay awake. That's why you have to limit your screen time before you go to sleep. So do whatever you can to get your room the right temperature. Now, if you sleep with someone, it's statistically impossible that you will agree on the temperature of the room. I know that. No couple agrees on that. It's impossible. I mean, everything's possible in this world except that, and maybe a couple other things, but that for sure. So negotiate accordingly, and try different things, whatever you can do to create a sleep environment where you have a really good fighting chance of getting a good night's sleep. That will help, because then your body can repair the damage that the stress does. We can't eliminate stress. We can change how we approach stressful situations, and that of course is a lot deeper work, but ultimately focusing on your getting good sleep is going to help a lot. And then secondly, and there's three. There's the second thing is your food intake. Now, I'm not going to tell you to quit eating fast food, but I am going to tell you, find out the foods that give you natural energy that your body can digest normally without any upset stomach and things like that. Yes, I know the burrito tastes really good. I'm guilty as charged. But if it gives you acid reflux and keeps you up all night, you're starting off tomorrow on the wrong foot, and you're not rested, you're fatigued, and you're wiped out. And then those little stressors that aren't that big of a deal for some reason become a big deal for you. And then thirdly, when people are burned out, and a lot of people are working long hours, they got to pay bills, inflation, all that. We're all in the same boat. But one of the things that I see happens time and time again with people that are burned out or just fatigued and wiped out is they stop doing things in life that they enjoy doing. And it could be simple things like going to have coffee with your best friend, or going for a walk in the morning, or reading your favorite novel, or even watching Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, those 18,000 subscription services that we
People
all pay
stopped
for.
watching Netflix.
Well, you know, I
Did everybody stop?
I don't think anybody did, but I always tell people, because a lot of people will have Netflix, they'll also have Disney Plus, they'll also have a bunch of other services. And I tell them, don't add up the total cost you're paying every month for all of that, because that's going to get you depressed and stressed out, because it adds up. Those little $5, $10 increments, when there's 10 of them, it's like, whoa, okay. You know, that's why my credit card bill is so high. But doing things in life you enjoy doing, and write down a list of things you like doing. And again, some things can be really big, like going on trips and cruises and whatnot. And some of them can be really simple, just sitting out on your balcony, you know, at night, and maybe having a glass of wine or your favorite adult beverage or child beverage. I don't care. Drink from a Capri Sun thing, whatever works for you.
Get out your favorite sippy cup.
Exactly. Get your favorite sippy cup, sit out there, just, watch nature. Now, if it's the dead of winter, bundle up, but get outside a little bit. Just do things, even if you're working a lot of hours. And I know many people are, because a lot of organizations are short staffed. So a lot of people are working longer shifts and all that. But you can still do something, even if it's a couple times a week. It's going to make a big, big difference in helping you kind of just take a break from the work stress. And a bonus one is just mindset. Yeah, you have a lot of work to do, but on the flip side of it, be thankful that you have a lot of work to do, because there are people that have been let go and they're not working right now, and we're hearing about that now with the cost of things that some organizations are cutting back. So those people are going, boy, I wish I could have something to work at. And so it's an interesting dynamic that we're in this world right now of all kinds of things that are being thrown at us. And it's just, making sure that we're taking care of ourselves to kind of fight off all of these stressors that keep getting thrown at us.
Love it, fascinated, and it intrigues me that there are people who are looking for work, can't find it, and those who are being begged to come back to work and going, nah, I don't feel like it. That's not going to happen. And I also love that even if they're totally stressed and they're going like, this isn't working, I don't want to do the 9 to 5. I don't want to, go to work stressed every day and freaking out that there's deadlines that are ridiculous and self-imposed. I don't want to do it anymore. So, I mean, you've touched on everybody that breathes. So who would you say is your favorite clientele, or who do you serve and support the most?
For me, I love working with leaders, executives, senior management, because that's the type of roles that I was in before I ventured off into this adventure. And I know what that day is like, and I know what the world looks like. I know how to deal with people. I know the challenges that they face, and it's fun to work with them. But I've worked with every level, but I love working with them because I know that if I can make them see things and approach life a little bit differently, like I said at the onset, make a couple adjustments here and there, that's going to take some pressure off of them. And what that means is, in all likelihood, they're going to ease up on the pressure that they're putting on the people that report to them, which then has this ripple effect where all of a sudden the energy level at the workplace changes a little bit, and it's not as stressful, which makes things a lot easier, because nothing's worse than having to wake up, not even on a Monday morning, but even on a Thursday morning, go, I hate my job. And it's like, okay, why? Why do you hate it? what is it? What's keeping you there? I have an idea what it is. It's this financial component. But
This thing called a paycheck. I don't
no, it's like,
know. It
yeah,
works.
yeah, mortgages, rents, car payments, your Netflix subscription. I get it. That's the trade that we make. We give our time and efforts, and we get compensated, and we
Why does
pay.
anybody turn tricks? I mean, really, come on.
Yeah, it's like, well, yeah, exactly. So, but the thing of it is, it's like when you're in that state, that's not healthy, and it reflects on the work you do. Even though we hear the phrase quiet quitting, and there are people that are doing that. And there's a warning about that. I mean, it's not new. The name quiet quitting is new, but mailing it in, malicious compliance to the job description, I've heard all kinds of descriptors for it. But that's a dangerous habit to start developing. And I understand why people do it. But let's say you get a job offer, you throw out your resume out there, and someone calls, and it's a great place. If you've been quiet quitting for several months, now all of a sudden you're in a new role, you have to crank it up a notch, and you have to actually perform because they're watching you. It's a test run. And if you aren't normally used to delivering and doing your job, you're going to run into some issues. Now, I will say this: it doesn't mean you should be forced to go above and beyond your job, which in many cases people are. I think that's one of the big reasons why people are so frustrated, is like, I was hired to do this, but you're asking me to do all these other things that are taking away from all of this, and people are just overwhelmed. And I think there needs to be a reevaluation in organizations of who are we as an organization? What do we do? Who do we serve? Get really simple on that and start scaling out or stopping doing all the extra stuff that has been added in over the time because some executive had an idea. Hey, we should do this. And everybody just says, okay, we'll roll it out. Like, no, let's plan this. How, by doing this, if we say yes to this, what are we saying no to? Because that's the equation. Every time you say, yes, we'll do this, you're going to say no, or you're not going to give the same effort to something else because all of a sudden your energy is going to something else. I'm not saying that's not a good idea, but you have to keep that into consideration. And when no one is, and they just say, this is a great idea, let's do it, then it puts a lot of pressure on everybody, and it just causes all kinds of problems and keeps me busy. So it's, it's
You're okay with them. Go ahead.
I
what you do and just hire me.
why no, burnout's great. Let's do it. It's good. No, I say this honestly. I wish it didn't exist. I would find something else to do, but because I know what burnout does. I mean, I experienced the extremes of it, of course, but it impacts relationships, it impacts families, it impacts work, it impacts your health, it impacts the quality of the products and services that are being made, which you and I consume and the listeners consume, which means the products and services we're consuming aren't as good as they could be because someone's quiet quitting or they're burned out and they're just not putting in the great efforts. We're getting subpar stuff, and that's not fair to anybody. We should all strive to do great work. I think that ultimately, deep down, I think everybody wants to do great work in their effort of producing something or creating something. And when we can't, it's frustrating for all of us.
Well, and I would think with leadership, there's, in my experience, people have a quote unquote calling towards it. Like, you either want to be in leadership or you don't. it's period, end of story. Mm-hmm. And those who are driven towards it, I think, have an interest in, like, they want to pursue, they want to go somewhere, they want to take the business someplace. And if they're experiencing burnout, well, one, it's because they're not really leading, they're following something, and it's in a direction that they don't want to go. Or two, it's that they're not looking at the leadership in a, like, in the proper way of, how do I delegate this out to somebody who loves doing this? How do I get the right people in the right positions? Because, I know for myself, when I was the most frustrated with my business was when I was doing things that I had no right doing. I should not. I knew that those weren't my skill sets. I knew that that wasn't my thing. I just did it because somebody needed to do the job, and it was like, hey, somebody else can do this way better than I can, and they're gonna have a lot more fun doing it. So,
Right.
like, what the hell are you doing? It is the, I guess, does it have to come down to that level of frustration? Do they have to hit bottom in some regard before they realize this has to change? Or can they, are there things that they can see that, and they just back up the bus today and go, hey, who's loving their job? Who's not? Let's shuffle and carry on.
I've seen both examples. I think in many cases, unfortunately, sometimes people have to hit the bottom before they'll make a change. You know, the pain of changing is less than pain of staying the same, basically. And we've heard that phrase before. And sometimes they're that way. The other example you gave, where they came in one day and they said, okay, who loves the job? Who hates it? Why is that change? Usually that happens either in a introspective moment as a leader, or maybe they saw a YouTube video or a TikTok clip of somebody saying something and they realized, wait,
They
am I
listen to
that?
this podcast.
Yeah, or they listen to this podcast. Yes, thank you, subscribers, for listening. Don't forget to 5-star and rate and all that good stuff. But ultimately, sometimes you see this on social media a lot, where there's certain high profile people out there that are leaders that are doing things that are counterintuitive to what other leaders want to do. And they go, you know what? I don't want to be viewed the same way that they are. So am I that boss? Sometimes they get that, it's just that reflective moment and they go, ooh, okay. My example, when I was leading, before my cardiac event and that year of fun, I was horrible at delegation. And I just like, because, well, they're busy. I'll do it. I'll do it.
That your year of fun.
Yeah. Well, it was, yeah. It's probably an acronym for something. I'll let you figure out what the F stands for. But at the end of the day, after recovering from all of that, I knew I had to learn how to delegate. And like you said before, there were people that were better at doing whatever that task was than I was. So I just started delegating. And there's a danger in that, because we see this in organizations a lot, where you have delegation to your superstars, people that get great things done and all of that. But as leaders, many times we do a horrible job of actually keeping track of what we've delegated. Next thing you know, we have overwhelmed our superstar with all these things because they're really good at it. And that superstar, if the communication isn't clear, then maybe they're not confident to approach their boss and say, okay, you just given me 10 priority 1As to pile on the other 15 that I had. What's the priority here? Well, if they say all of it, fire up your computer,
Kind of
update.
contributing to somebody else's burnout and good for you.
Yeah, exactly. And go open up resume.doc and start updating that and get it out there, because that's not a healthy environment from my observation. I'm just on that example. But so with leaders, it's important for them to have a bigger picture of everything that's going on. It doesn't mean they have to be involved in everything, but at least have an understanding and who's doing what, because as you know, sometimes things change and there's new opportunities or shifts in priority. It happens. It's called life. And sometimes we forget that can happen, where this project that was the biggest priority may go, that's going to be priority C right now because this one's coming up. And if we land this, then XYZ or XYZ, depending on where you're listening to this. So from that standpoint, you have to go, all right. And I've been telling people this, especially in HR, especially during the pandemic, when everyone was freaking out about policies and remote or in person and all these things. And how do we do this? What should we do going forward? I told them, well, talk with everybody, write out the procedure or the policy, but use pencil, because it's going to change, and understand that, and just kind of go with the flow at the moment in time. The sooner you can connect with that, it reduces the pressure a bit. And I think that's what leaders need to really focus on right now, is communicate as much as you can without bombarding people with meetings, and let people share their viewpoints and what they're seeing, because they'll see things that you won't. And I know leaders don't like hearing that, but it's true. Your teams will see things that you won't see as a leader, because you're not in the same viewpoint as they are. You're not in the trenches as much as they are. So they're going to see things that you won't, and it could be a big deal for the organization going forward.
All right. So give us an example of one of your Cinderella stories.
Oh, let's see. Which one do I want to give? I'll give this one. And I have permission to share this, which is funny. I usually do this during my keynote talks and all of that. But I was working with an individual executive, went in to replace a favorite executive that was let go. And the team was not happy about it because they felt that the board was out of bounds in this termination and all of that. Plus, there was another candidate that was internal that they wanted to get promoted into this role, and that person didn't. So there was a combination of unhappy team and then somebody that wanted the role that didn't get the role but stayed and was basically causing a lot of grief and things like that. So they went in, and immediately they didn't get rid of that person, probably should have, but they did let go somebody else that wasn't performing, but yet was a favorite of the team. And that was within like the first 6 weeks of their role. I'm like, ooh, that's gonna leave a mark. So you're setting your step, or you're setting yourself up for failure right away. So you're gonna have to, do some damage control on this and work with her. They started building a better relationship with the team, communicated why they did it, without revealing too many details. But they were getting the team turned around, and within about 6 to 9 months, the temperature completely changed because she was more open to feedback. They were being heard, and they weren't being heard before. And it just changed the dynamic of everything. And then there was a side positive of this. Her stress levels dropped dramatically and was successful and was in that role for several years. And she's now ventured off and doing some consulting work too, because something that she wanted to do. But in between that time, after she got the stress relief and was enjoying her role, she gave me a call one day and she said she was pregnant. And she had been trying to get pregnant forever, but the stress in her body and all the things that was going on was, playing a part in not giving her the ability to conceive. Yep. So what I do is in my talks, I'll joke, I say, so if you work with me and you've been trying to get pregnant, you might get pregnant. But then I go,
lucky man.
Wait, no, that's not what I meant.
Pregnant after you've been working on them.
That's not what I meant. No. So, it gets everybody laughing. And, she knows I share that joke. And, but I said, oh, okay, so you work with me and you get pregnant. And I remember saying that, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know if that was a good thing to say, but she laughed hysterically and found it really funny. And I said, not that way. It reduces the stress. Then you feel better and your body will work like it's supposed to. So that's what I meant. No. There's that's in the consulting agreement. It should be. If it hasn't,
everybody will have better sex after they work with you. that could be a good tagline.
You know what? Yeah, I remember Dr. Ruth. She made millions doing stuff. I don't ever remember what she said, but I was younger then, so wasn't paying attention. But anyway, that's one funny story, but a good story in that changed the dynamics of a team without really changing the team, other than that one person that wasn't performing. The crap disturber that wanted their role, they turned around too. And now it wasn't the greatest relationship, but they were able to work together. And on paper, you would look at it and go, well, this is never going to happen, but it did. And it was just a case of, as a leader, you need, I don't want to say vulnerable, because a lot of times people say that, but you got to be human. You got to be real and understand that your people are human and real. They've got challenges. They've got washers that are broken down. They've got, how do I coordinate the schedule with this and all of that, and car issues or family issues or healthcare, you name it. Everybody's got stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think once we get to that, and I don't want to say necessarily move away from the top down approach of organizational charts, but make it more of a symbiotic kind of moving around thing, I think organizations will be healthier. Yes, there's still going to be somebody that is ultimately in charge. If you're first level, you love that because it's not my head. But ultimately, if everyone is collaborating together and they all know where everything is going and the direction of things, it eliminates a lot of issues, a lot of stressful issues, basically the pitfalls and the silos that we see in so many organizations, and just it gets healthier. And those organizations keep their people; they don't leave. And you see organizations where that happens, and then you see organizations that have amazing turnover. Well, even real quick, saw an article yesterday from it was a healthcare article out of the U.S. and majority of the hospitals in the United States has about a 100% turnover of their clinicians every 5 years. So every 5 years, you go into a hospital, you won't know anybody. They're all new. And it's like, what in the, and I know what's going on there because I used to work in healthcare. It's a disaster right now. Our healthcare workers, I'm not singling them out over anybody else, but they're not having an easy go of it. And it doesn't matter if it's in Canada, the US, or UK, or wherever else. It has been a real difficult time for them. And it's when you have that kind of turnover, that's not helpful for society. Because then all of a sudden you hear about, like we've heard in Canada, of ERs having to close on a weekend because they don't have enough staffing. Like, wait a minute, that's our go-to. That's our go-to. When we screw up, when we make mistakes or get injured or do something dumb, which we tend to do, that's our get out of jail free card. Wait a minute, the jail's closed? Uh-oh, now what? And that's not what we want to have. And there's so many systematic reasons for why that's happening. But ultimately, as individuals, we have a role to play too in taking better care of ourselves. So we don't have to worry about, is our ER open on Saturday night? We shouldn't have to worry about that because we're taking care of ourselves.
Wow. And I was thinking that the corporate world had changed since I was in it. One of my favorite firings that I've had, and I've no misunderstanding here, I have been fired from every job I had. Even my sister fired me. Is I was the receptionist at one point many lives ago, and there was a merger, and so half of the company got laid off, and we all knew it was coming. That was fine. But everybody who came in to get their paperwork and their whatevers were treated like crap. And it's like, well, we've worked with these people forever. Like, I am going to make this as enjoyable as possible while they're sitting in the waiting room. And then when customers come in, it's going to be a nice place to work. And I was told unequivocally not to fraternize with the enemy. And I'm like, so I wrote an email. I said, hey, if you have a polite way of treating these people with respect, that in a way that you want me to do this, you let me know. And I sat on that email for about 5 minutes and went, do I want to send? Do I want to send? Do I want to send? Because I knew as soon as I sent it, I was going to get fired. There was zero doubt in my mind. What's more important to me right now is treating these people with respect or keeping my job. And I went, send.
Well, one of my favorite sayings is the bear won't poke itself, so
no.
So sometimes
you're like these people for 5 years, you'd love them. They were at your Christmas parties, and now all of a sudden they're heathen because we had a merger. Like, what is that? I don't understand. And why would you do that to people? Like, in the end, we're people. We're not a business.
Exactly. And the quicker we remember that, the quicker things will ease up a bit and understand that we're all going through things. We always have been. Doesn't matter if it's inflation or wars or pandemics or whatnot. There's always something going on in the lives of the people that we are around a lot. And just having an understanding going, okay, we'll get it done. I think just, lowering the temperature a little bit in the oven makes it a little bit easier, so we're not burning so quickly.
Well, and I would have thought that everybody being on Zoom and their kids in the background and the dogs coming in, that we lose the stuffed shirt approach to business, and it's like, okay, we're all people. We're all doing the exact same thing. We're just doing different things when we hit the keyboard. And I would have thought that that would have had some sort of level playing field, but well,
Not yet.
and
Not
hopefully it
yet.
will now.
I think I'm hope, maybe I'm being too optimistic, but my hope is that in time we will see things evolved into a more, I guess, humanistic approach to work. And we're seeing it. I think that's, part of the reason why there's a lot of vacancies is there are just some people they're going, I'm not going to work in that environment. And people have gotten a whole lot better at reading job descriptions and recognizing, ooh, there it is. Look for the red flags. They're always in there, by the way. There's like, okay, yes, hands-on approach or, multitask. You start looking, it's like, okay, I'm going to get 18 things done by Friday. Yeah, it's like they're all there, and you can just highlight them and you go, mm-mm. And or you can ask them about that. And if they start getting sheepish on the Zoom call, or if you do it in person, then yeah. So that's why we're seeing a lot of people going, no, I'm not gonna work in that. That's why we've seen so many people take that leap and try their own thing, which I encourage people to do that if that's something that you want to do. If it's better to make mistakes than to have regrets. And if you always wanted to do something, go do it. Why not? And just prepare yourself for it. Do yourself as best you can to make sure that you have a little bit of a cushion, so if it doesn't work, you're not suffering too much, but understand there's risks involved with it. But you get to design your workday and realize, oh wow, being a boss is not as easy as I thought. So
Right. No, it's not. And optimistically, there are a lot of ways that as a leader you can still have people multitasking, you can still have people doing a ton of different things, and you can do it in a really fun way. I love having a variety of things thrown at me in a day. But there's a huge difference between here, take this on as a challenge, and you need to have this done by tomorrow and it needs to be perfect.
right.
And I think if we just kind of let go of that aspect of it, and it's like, hey, have a ton of fun with this and see how much you can get done by today at the end of the day, and we'll review it because they really want to have this done by tomorrow.
Mhm.
Like it's a totally different job, even though it's the
Mhm.
exact same job.
Yeah, exactly. It's just how you approach it. And if it's not due tomorrow, but you'd like to have it done by the end of the week, it's like, when do you think you can get this done? Then that empowers the employee to, if they have an understanding of what they're working on, they can say, okay, I'm working on the Macmillan project as well. Do you want me to put pause on that for a day so we can focus on this? Yeah, that's a great idea. And then we can look at the Macmillan, and maybe there might be somebody else that can take on part of it while, for this week to just do a couple things on it so it doesn't, get too far behind. But it's a negotiation. It's a back and forth instead of this hierarchical, parent to child. You must do this type of thing, and it's just that as a kid, it helps kind of guide and shape the child, but give or take, depending on the child. But at the end of the day, it comes down to if you have a more open approach to give the power, as I like to call it, to the employee to dictate when they can work on it and how much they can get done, they feel that they have a say in what they're doing. If they do that, then they're like, you know what, that's fine. And many times they get it done sooner because they get into a workflow and a rhythm on it. Like, okay, I got another hour or so, this will be done. Why don't I just get it done? And then they do it. And then there's that, yeah, you got it done early. And you're like, whoa, I wasn't asking for that, but thank you. And it's just, it acknowledges the effort that they put into it, shows that you appreciate them. And you have just that. All of a sudden that changes the temperature, and it helps reduce the stress a little bit. And without prolonged stress, you can't burn out. So you're just reducing the stress. Can't eliminate stress. Stress is always here. Sorry. We
Well,
haven't
and stress
figured that.
is good when
Oh, sure.
it's because you got to understand that potential only exists when something is under tension, and and we relate that to stress. So it's being able to understand that there's good stress, and then there's too much stress, there's bad stress, and there's chronic stress. And what do we want to have, and what brings out the best of us and what doesn't. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Michael, you've been awesome. I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start the journey with you?
Best place to find me, just go to breakfastleadership.com, and at the bottom there's a contact info section, or you just go to the contact page and just send me a note. I'm on most of the social media channels. You can look under the letter B, Fast Leadership, or if you search hashtag Breakfast Leadership, you'll stumble across me and all of that. And then of course I've got my show, the Breakfast Leadership Show. So that's on most of the major flavors of podcasts. So you can find my show there. So thank you so much for your time today.
I love it. So I get to ask you now, at what point in life did you know that you were special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
Oh, that would have been when I launched my business, because of course, I had colleagues that told me I was crazy, so that helped. I listened to them. They say, "Yeah, you're crazy enough to do this, so you should." And even my therapist, and I tell people everyone should have a therapist. We all have stuff we can work on. So when I this years ago when I did this, she said to me, "It's about time you did that," and I'm like, "What?" Oh yeah. Oh, she kicks my butt, and I need it, so I get it. Yeah, she holds me accountable. That's a good sign of one too. But I always recommend people should get a therapist, and you can get access to them a lot easier, a lot more affordable than years ago. But ultimately, if there's areas in your life that you need help on, have them help you with one of those things. Again, simple adjustment, all of a sudden it could change your perspective and change how you go about life, and it's so worth it. So it's an investment in you, and that's ultimately the best advice: is invest in yourself. You'll be better for it.
You have been awesome, Michael. Any last words for our peeps?
Just make sure that you take care of yourself. Do the things in life you enjoy doing, even if you're working a lot of hours. Do a couple things, just do them, so you have something different from the work. And remember why you went into your field that you worked in, or you work in, and reconnect with that passion that you had. It's still there, and you're here for a reason, and you're going to be doing great work. So just set yourself up for success as best you can.
Guys, go have a couple of orgasms and you'll be fine. My words, not his. Awesome. Michael, you have been fabulous. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it immensely.
Thank
I
you.
know how valuable it is.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Peeps, thank you for being here. This is Michelle Nedelec, your mistress in business. Thank you for being here. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs get it up and keep it up. Thank you for listening to the Little Blue Pill for Business podcast with your mistress in business, Michelle Nedelec. Why are you still here? Go to littlebluepillforbusiness.com and get your goodies. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to share it with somebody else that you know would enjoy getting it up in business after you subscribe to the podcast, of course, so you won't miss any future episodes. Now, check the notes for links. Oh, and only tell your wife if she's into this, entrepreneurship. And I'll see you both on the other side.